over Greenland in search of the largest land carnivore in the world, the polar bear.
We'll be looking inside these ice bears to find out how they can survive temperatures of -70 degrees and how they can fast for up to 8 months without food. We'll be investigating reports of strange deformities in polar bears and what that might mean.
And we'll be following the incredible story of how grizzly bears evolved to become kings of the ice. Join us as we go deep into the Arctic. I tell you what, it's really interesting. You see this in photographs all the time. Nothing prepares you for seeing it in the flesh, as it were. Have you ever seen polar bears from the air?
Yes, I have, but not very often. It's quite hard to see because they are so white.
We're crossing a gigantic frozen fjord on our way to a place where polar bears come in search of food. On the east coast of Greenland, hundreds of miles away from anywhere, lies a small isolated village called Scoresby Sund. For most of the year, it's locked in by sea ice. Right now, in February, the only way in is by air. We have little idea what to expect.
So you can see now where we're actually going. The main village, Scoresby Sund, is just down here on the edge of the water. What an incredibly remote place to live. Beautiful though, absolutely beautiful.
450 people live here. There are no roads, just skidoo and sledge tracks. And a single shop where we'll need to stock up with food. None of our team has been this far north before. Simon Watt hopes to follow in the footsteps of polar bears. And Joy Reidenberg, our comparative anatomist, has her dissection kit on standby. Take a look at the price of this. Couple of trees of broccoli, right? 10 quid. This stuff is a real delicacy. One leek, 3 quid. Very, very expensive stuff. I wouldn't want to be a vegetarian here. Joy, do you really think we need so much chocolate?
Yes.
We've loaded up with enough food to last us 2 weeks. We're heading an hour out of town to a peninsula called Cap Turbin, where polar bears come in from the sea ice. No one's lived in this abandoned hunting settlement for 5 years. This old hunter's cabin will be our home. Despite being in one of the remotest places on Earth, we are not alone. New neighbours are moving in. An international team of scientists is setting up a lab in the old school. They're concerned pollutants in the Arctic may be damaging polar bears' health. To prove it, they need blood and fresh tissue samples. And to get those, they need access to dead polar bears. On the furthest point on Cap Turbin is another cabin. Holed up inside is the region's best hunter, 64-year-old Christian Josephson. As a traditional subsistence hunter, he's allowed by law to hunt a small quota of polar bears. He sits patiently scanning the horizon. Hunting polar bears is controversial, but hopefully some scientific benefits can come from it. Christian needs bears for fur and meat for his family. The scientists need bears for their samples, and we need a bear for our anatomical dissection. But we'll only have access to one if the scientists can persuade the hunters to collaborate. For the first 2 days, there's no sign of bears. But on our third day, our camera chances upon something unexpected. A hunter is out with his dog team on the trail of a bear.
I can see it, I can see it. It's been hit.
Is it?
Yeah. They killed it. It's in the water there.
We race down onto the ice sheet, unsure of what to expect. Just heard on the radio that a polar bear's been shot right in the village, so I'm dashing back to see what's going on. By the time we arrive, several hunters have already begun skinning it. This guy shot the bear. He's so young. I just hope the scientists can win him over. Runa, it's Mark. Do you want to speak to the hunter? Because they're halfway through skinning at the moment.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, let's pass you on to the hunter. Do you want to speak to the scientists on the phone? Okay, Runa, you're on loudspeaker, Runa, so you can speak to the hunter now. I'll put the phone by his ear. Here you go.
I'm not speak English.
Okay. Danish?
Oh. He doesn't speak Danish.
Hang on, Runa, hold on. We need somebody who can speak, translate. Try and speak to Runa. Okay, his name's Runa. He's the head of the Danish scientists. The scientists are trying to persuade them to bring the polar bear to their lab at Cap Tabin by offering a small reward.
They want to share it now.
They don't want the reward.
No,
they want to share it for themselves. Now. Okay. For this proud young hunter, this is not about money. I mean, it is incredible for me to be so close to a polar bear. We've only been out here 3 days looking for them, but you just constantly want to get close to one to see one. But equally, it's heartbreaking in a way to see it taken apart, and especially when we haven't been able to make the benefit of taking samples for science. But the hunters have made a decision. They don't want the reward from the Danish scientists. They want to cut it up now, which is what they're doing, and share it amongst themselves, which is the traditional way of what they do. Obviously the skin is very valuable to them, so they've taken that off first because very quickly it would get frozen. But this is actually quite a small bear, I gather, a male, but huge surface area on this foot when it's on the ice, to be able to walk through the snow and on the ice without going through. But what is interesting to me, I was expecting to find much bigger claws, but you can see, if I hold this up, you can see there's the claw there, which they're actually really pretty short and sharp. It's almost like having crampons on your feet, which is perfect for walking across the ice. Amazing. What will you do with this now? This meat?
Dry home.
Yeah, will you
And-
dry? Do you dry?
and
You eat
cooking-
it? Yeah,
and
cook it
cooking
straight
with
away, or do you leave it for a few weeks before cooking it, or you cook it straight away?
We cook maybe about half hour.
Half tonight.
Yes.
Big
yeah.
dinner.
Yes.
away.
It's taken, what, 30 minutes for these guys to completely dismember this carcass and split it up amongst all of them. They've put it all in bags now and they're all individually taking it off to their own dog sleds, and they're genuinely really excited about this. They now can only hunt around 30 polar bears. There's a quota and that's their limit. But this is only the second one this season, so you can forgive these guys for being that chuffed that they've got one, and they're taking all their body parts and the meat now back to the village to share it with their families. So it's sad for us, obviously, and for the scientists, because it's a polar bear that's died that we can make no use of scientifically, but there will be others. Global warming is not the only threat to the Arctic that worries scientists. Winds from other parts of the world concentrate pollutants here. To understand why polar bears are particularly vulnerable, we need to look beneath the ice.
When you look at the Arctic's barren, treeless landscape, you'd assume that this is a pretty desolate place. But believe it or not, underneath this ice is the basis of one of the most productive food chains on the planet. When you think about where Earth gets its oxygen, you picture the rainforest with its trees. Yet half of our oxygen comes straight out of the sea. It's produced by these. Tiny little organisms, invisible to the naked eye, little plants called phytoplankton. And they come in a dazzling range of shapes and sizes. They may be small, but in the height of the Arctic summer, when the sun shines for 24 hours a day, there are phytoplankton blooms which can be seen from space. For the phytoplankton, it is imperative that they stay near the surface of the water, within reach of the sun. If they sink into the depths of the ocean and darkness, they will die. To help them float, they produce a little droplet of oil. This acts a bit like a life jacket, keeping them up here. Unfortunately though, the pollutants in these waters are what scientists call lipid soluble. They love oil and they diffuse straight into the phytoplankton and the oil droplet. The pollutants in the oil are passed to other animals via the food chain. The phytoplankton are eaten by zooplankton, tiny little animals like krill. These are eaten by fish, which are eaten by seals, which in turn are eaten by polar bears. The pollutants accumulate further up the food chain you go at each level, and this puts the polar bears at the top at the most risk. And that's why the scientists are here to study them.
Given the problems the Danish scientists had yesterday trying to communicate with the hunters on the ice by conference call, what they've done is to organise a really critical meeting in the sports hall behind me tonight, so they can sort out how they can work together really well so that the scientists can get the samples they need. Rune Dietz and Christian Sonner, the two lead scientists, know it'll be hard to convince these seasoned hunters to help. First, they warn them what's at stake. They explain that because they're eating contaminated animals, their own health could be at risk.
Men generelt vil vi gerne ud og tage prøver fra alle de isbjørne, der bliver skudt. Ja, vi vil meget gerne have skind og knogler, men alt neri og dardua, det kræver, at vi samarbejder.
The scientists are also offering another incentive.
Og at vi får hurtig adgang til prøverne. Og derfor er dusøren hævet.
Og vi håber, at vi kan komme op på at få... Er færdig? Ja, okay.
Ja, England?
Ja. Bueno. Du.
Bye.
Bye.
See you now.
It seemed very friendly. It seemed very open to it. How did it go?
Yeah, but my opinion is that they thought that the price was a bit too low.
They call us tomorrow, and then they tell us how much for fur, how much for the bones, and how much for the samples we take.
They have very few opportunities of an income, so when something like this happens, then they have to, sort of get as much out of it as possible. That's what they said. So.
If we're going to work with these hunters, we need to understand what drives them.
You soon get the sense that hunting is an art passed down through generations. Today, they've swapped their spears for guns, but they still use a sledge and dogs. For hunters like Scoresby Hamilton, maintaining the bear population is essential for his way of life. So you're only shooting males and mothers without no cubs? Females without cubs? And this is increasing the population?
Although it's many more polar bears.
Many more polar bears.
That's what I'm thinking.
Hunters say quotas have stemmed the decline in polar bear populations. Others say more bears have been forced onto the coast by global warming. Either way, the polar bear is still classified as a vulnerable species. It was a very different story when Scoresby Sund first attracted hunters.
When the early settlers first arrived here, they found loads of polar bears and seals, which was very fortunate because it provided them not only with food, but also essential clothing to stay warm. They turned up in 1925, just 70 of them, and it was really, really tough here. But they discovered they were essentially in an Arctic larder, loads and loads of animals to hunt, and in their first year, they killed 1,000 seals and 115 bears. That's a lot of food and a lot of clothing. Warm?
Yeah, toasty. In fact, I'd say this is the warmest I've been for days.
And it is really, really cold in this museum, like no other museum you would have ever visited.
I think you can see your breath.
Just take me through the kit, what you've got here.
What seems to be the hands, the gloves and the trousers, they're all polar bear and they're lined with sealskin, much shorter fur, I guess, so they can get overlap with their coats. The boots, though, mostly sealskin, turned inside out so the leather's facing outward, but down at the bottom there, my toes, they've got this wonderful, luxurious lining of polar bear fur. It's keeping me nice and warm.
It's not that I like stroking you, but this is wonderfully thick fur, isn't it?
Yeah, it's interesting to think that with all our modern technology, Mother Nature still does it better.
To survive the Arctic's extreme climate, evolution has provided polar bears with perhaps the most advanced fur coat on the planet. They lose so little heat, they're nearly invisible under infrared photography. They can snuggle up comfortably in temperatures of -70 degrees and, unlike other bears, have no need to hibernate. They don't even freeze in ice-cold waters, where they take regular dips between ice flows. And when they come back onto the land, after a quick shake, it's as if their fur has never been wet. So what are the secrets of this wondrous coat? The hunters have lent us the fur from the bear killed 2 days ago to find out. When the skin's laid out like this, you get a real impression of how big this is. It is the biggest organ in a polar bear's body, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, and it's probably also one of the most important organs in the polar bear. Without this fur, the bear would die immediately.
Does it always have the same amount of fur all year long, or are there times when the fur is thicker because it's colder?
This is a perfect winter fur. I mean, during exactly this period, the fur is long and it's very woolen and couldn't be better insulating.
So you've got kind of two very clear layers of fur, haven't you? Down here, you've got the deep undercoat, which is very fluffy. But then on top of it are these longer guard hairs, which you see most obviously around the edges here, don't you? Whilst the guard hairs keep snow, wind and water out, the soft inner layer keeps body heat in. It's like a feather duvet. There's not much to it, but it's because the feathers trap air in the duvet is what acts as the insulator to keep you warm in bed. This thing is doing it through its fur. Christian, if we delve a bit deeper through the fur, the skin itself is a surprising colour, isn't it?
Yeah. In fact, it's very much pigmented and very much black. I don't know if you can see it here.
So very black and
very
all
black.
and all over the bear.
All over the body.
I'm really surprised to see that it's actually got black skin. I mean, we know that a polar bear has the iconic black nose. You can see that here. There's black lips. There's even black around the eyes. But I never thought that that black skin continues all the way underneath all of this fur. That's a surprise.
Okay, let's have a look through the microscope. Okay. It's really cold when you haven't got gloves on. Oh!
It really is cold.
Okay, so let's just pass this over there. You can see it coming up on the screen. It's almost like looking at a fishing line.
Yeah, and the hairs themselves are actually hollow.
It's beautiful, really beautiful.
That's really amazing.
Surprisingly, polar bear hairs are actually colourless. But if the skin is black, why do these bears appear white?
Well, this is not that unusual. This water is clear, but the snow all around me is white. Somehow, as if by magic, clear things can appear white. Although water is clear, when it's frozen, the many surfaces within an ice crystal with a snowflake reflect all the light, making it appear white. The hollow fibres of a polar bear hair are behaving in a very similar way.
By looking white, the fur provides the polar bear with perfect camouflage. But by being colourless, it actually generates additional warmth. Some of the sun's rays pass straight through the fur down to the skin below. Being black, the skin absorbs this light energy and radiates it back out as heat. This then heats up the air trapped inside the fur, keeping the bear warm like a greenhouse.
It's just like having a black car in the summer. It traps the heat, and it's exactly the same in a polar bear. All this pigmented skin traps the heat, and it also helps the woolen hair to keep the insulation.
So what you end up with is a black animal with colourless fur, and it ends up looking white. Brilliant. The polar bear has one other mighty feature that protects it from the cold: being big, as Richard Dawkins explains.
One of the things that happens when you compare animals at different latitudes, as you go towards Arctic or Antarctic regions, you tend to get more massive body size. It's easier to conserve heat if you have a massive body. And you can see that if you compare these bears here. The polar bear has the largest body size in the coldest climate. But although body size gets bigger as you go towards cold climate, extremities, such as external ears, the bits you can actually see on the outside, external ears get smaller. Think of African elephants, which have huge ears which they use to radiate heat. compared to woolly mammoths living in Arctic conditions, which had very small ears. And polar bears have very small external ears compared to their relatives who live further south.
5 days into our trip, the Arctic continues to enthrall. But there's still no polar bear for the scientists or for us. There's still no sight of a polar bear, and now, frustratingly, the weather's turned properly Arctic. Overnight, this has blown up. We're now trapped in this blizzard. We can't go anywhere until it clears, but there'll be no polar bear hunting in this weather. You literally can't see 10 metres in front of you. For the next 3 days, we're holed up inside.
It's only having experienced the full force of the Arctic that you can appreciate just how challenging this environment is. Polar bears have lived here for over 150,000 years. To understand why they've made this ice world their home, we need to look back at their ancestors. Figuring out the evolutionary story of the polar bear has proved far from easy. There are very few polar bear fossils. The bears live on the ice and die on the ice, and when the ice melts, their bones sink to the bottom of the ocean. But recent DNA analysis has given us a tantalizing clue. If you go back 200,000 years, the world was in the grip of a great ice age. Most of the northern hemisphere, including Britain, was covered by giant sheets of ice. There were no polar bears back then, but brown bears had spread right across the globe. The largest brown bear in the world is the Alaskan grizzly bear. They're famous for gathering at rivers, snapping up salmon on their way upstream to lay their eggs. These bears are omnivores, eating anything from pine nuts and berries to moths and mussels. During the Ice Age, the advance in ice sheets forced the brown bears south. Evidence suggests that one population in Siberia became isolated, trapped by huge glaciers which cut them off from their food supplies. Surrounded by ice, these bears were forced to adapt or die. It is thought that some grizzly bears took to living off those that lived on the ice. Seals. At first they were scavengers, picking off any carcasses that washed ashore, but later they developed into skilled ambush predators. A superb sense of smell helped these bears sniff out seal breathing holes from over 20 miles away. Then they lay in wait, hiding beneath their camouflaged coats until the seals popped up for air. And so, the polar bear was born.
This is the skull of a polar bear. It's all that's left from the bear the young hunter shot last week. We want to see how the bear's head adapted to feed on seals.
So this polar bear skull is very typical of a carnivore. We've got these really long canines here. But what I really think is amazing is how streamlined the front of this head is. It's not like other bears, which have more of like a forehead bump here and then a snout.
Because when you look at a grizzly, they've got a very kind of dished face, haven't they? You know,
yeah,
it's a big round face with the little muzzles poking out. This is much more a kind of Roman nose.
Yeah, in fact, it's so iconic when you see a polar bear. You see that curve, you know, right from the top of the head straight down to the black nose at the end, as if it's just one smooth line all the way. And notice how its whole head is long and narrow. It can stuff its whole head down a very narrow seal's breathing hole and pull out a seal.
Which, of course, a grizzly just couldn't do, because if it tried to ram its head down a breathing hole, it would simply get stuck. These are seal pluckers.
Now the blizzard's over, Scoresby's offered to take me out to sea in search of seals. Yesterday this whole area was covered by ice, but late last night a storm came crashing in and smashed it all up, so we got carried out on the tide this morning. This is just the ideal conditions for hunters like Scoresby. Whenever they like this, they can go out onto the ice, hopefully looking for maybe some seal popping up near the ice's edge, maybe narwhal. If there's seal out and about, there could be polar bears as well. This is just the kind of conditions you'd be hoping for. Polar bears have a really tricky time here. They've got a bit of a balancing act going. They need ice which is thin enough for the seals to come up and punch through, make themselves some air holes, but strong enough to withstand their weight so they can come, wait there, build an ambush and pounce when the time comes. The iceberg just over there. It's so beautiful but so dangerous as well. The captain has to be quite careful around it. The sheer scale of it, it's just wonderful.
This is not so big, this is small.
We have to be very quiet now. We just saw a seal bobbing up above the water. It could be under this ice anywhere. It does have to come up for air soon. Not sure if he got that one. Well, he was a good hunter if he did. As an animal lover, watching seals dodging bullets is quite upsetting for me. I'm still trying to come to terms with the fact that this is how Inuit hunters feed their families. They often hunt in small groups, helping each other out.
I got a bow.
Scoresby's on the radio to Christian, the old hunter from the cabin in Cap Tobin.
I know where they are. Just sit. I'm going.
Hi. It seems Christian's had more luck.
Okay, open up.
It's a walrus.
Hi. Oh, Christian. Good to see you again.
Apparently Christian spotted it on the ice floe from his cabin.
Did you hunt this? You? Me? Oh, we heard you're a good hunter.
It may not be the polar bear he was after, but it will provide plenty of meat for everyone.
Quite an ugly brute of a thing, but still marvellous.
This can be like this.
And are they dangerous to hunters?
Yeah, sometimes.
Yeah?
Yeah. Yeah, sometimes they get attacked.
Well, you wouldn't want to get close to those.
No.
Polar bears hunt walruses too. They use scare tactics to avoid their tusks. First, the bear charges at the colony to trigger a stampede. Then it moves in to pick off the slowest and weakest, usually the young or the old.
Now this is what the hunters and the polar bears are really looking for, the thick blubber layer of fat. We're talking about 2 inches, and this is only a small walrus. Now, if you burn this, you get twice as much energy as you're getting from carbohydrates. In some cases, polar bears have even been known to leave the meat behind, only focusing on this fat. When you look at this, it's hard to believe that this is all fat. And the biggest of polar bears can eat 100 pounds of this in a single sitting.
That's extraordinary. Although the Inuit eat this too, they only eat small quantities. The polar bears eat so much, it's a wonder they don't collapse from heart disease.
Christian, do you eat any of this now?
No,
Nothing raw?
not now. First cooking.
For cooking? Okay. What is that? Are you serious? Do you even eat this?
Nope.
No. Wow. That is a walrus penis, apparently. It's hard and has a bone in it. That's impressive, to say the least.
Richard Dawkins has a theory about this.
This is the penis bone of a walrus. You may not know that most carnivores and primates, we're primates, have a penis bone. It's different, the penis with a bone. We actually don't have it. Walruses do, seals do, dogs do, polar bears do. These are polar bear penis bones. You might say, if other primates have got a penis bone, why have we lost it? It seems like a useful sort of thing to have. I've got an idea about it. It's probably rather far-fetched, so don't take it too seriously. There is a theory of sexual selection, that's where females choose males, which says that females behave a bit like diagnostic doctors, looking the males over and choosing the most healthy. And the males, in a funny sort of way, cooperate by making it easy for the females to diagnose how healthy they are. In a way, having a thermometer sticking out of every orifice, let's say, or a blood pressure meter. What if the ability to sustain a hard erection without a penis bone is a kind of blood pressure meter, a kind of indicator of health? You might say any fool can sustain a hard erection with a penis bone, but only a really healthy male can do it without.
Returning to Scoresby Sound after the walrus kill, the sea is starting to freeze over again. As we draw closer to the harbour, we can see a commotion around one of the other boats. It's a polar bear. I can't pretend I'm not shocked at the sight of this young dead bear. For the hunters, it's simply another animal to eat. The good news for the scientists is that the hunters are offering this bear for their research.
Is this fast enough for you, Christian? Can you get your samples?
Yeah, of course we can. This is definitely high quality sampling now. She just died around 2 hours ago.
Okay.
If we are going to get some blood, we need to get going. Yeah. So we have to put it on the back and then cut it up in the middle.
It's stiffening up already.
Yeah, but it's okay.
I just went like this and it went caught right on the suit.
Get the light down in there, please.
So the local hunters are here working with the scientists to start taking the skin off, and then the next job's Christian has got to take a huge amount of blood to be able to fill all their containers to do all the various laboratory tests they need. And he needs to get on with that because now they've started opening this up, now it's going to chill down. When it's got its fur coat on, before it's open, it's well insulated and the inside's still pretty warm. But this blood is going to clot.
Okay.
By peeling off the polar bear's fur coat, the hunter exposes a layer of fat underneath, which immediately catches Joy's attention.
Look at how mushy it is. It's very mushy, very squidgy.
Joy, you can see now how much fat there is over the hind limbs here. If you actually stripped all that out by dissection, you'd have quite a weight in fat. When polar bears eat seal blubber, they convert it into their own fat stores, which they draw on to survive during lean times. Do you think the condition of this bear for a 2-year-old, the amount of fat there is normal for this time of year?
Well, of course it depends in how good shape the bear is. But I mean, at this time of its life, it needs to find the food itself. Of course, if it has been starving for a couple of months, I would expect the fatter to be of a lower amount. So right. I think it's in a good shape. Yeah.
Okay. So your next priority is getting these blood samples out as quickly as possible. You're going to try and go deep in the chest and get the major blood vessels.
Yeah, the aorta and also from the caval vein. So, yeah.
Now opening up into the chest, you can see the edges of the ribs there. The abdomen's open as well. You can see some of the small bowel, small intestine there. So they're getting in deep inside, and this will now give Christian a chance to get to the heart and the big blood vessels to get the samples that he needs. Right, so he's straight into the heart there, taking a sample out now.
Is it still warm?
It's very warm. Yeah, probably around 30 degrees, I think.
Christian's got the first 50 mils of blood out now, and they're filling up the containers. These now go into a kind of laboratory production line where all the scientists who want very specific tests run take their samples and get on with them. It's a real military exercise, this, but a very difficult environment in which to do it. The scientists know that the pollutants are contaminating polar bears through the food chain. When the bears eat seal fat, the chemicals are passed into the blood and transported to virtually every organ in the body. What effect do these pollutants have on the bears themselves, Christian?
Probably they have effect both on the immune system, the endocrine system, the reproductive system, the neurological system. They, for instance, it can reduce your immunity towards micropathogens and infections, syndromes and diseases. And it can lower the chance of polar bears of having cubs and the survival of the cubs. It seems that the gonads are shrinking. It seems that the penile bone is shrinking, and it seems that there is a specific lesions in the testes.
And I've heard and read stuff about the possibility of some polar bears even becoming hermaphrodite. Is that something you've seen, or?
We have found 2 here with an enlarged clitoris, and then there have been around 20 adult females at Svalbard with enlarged clitoris. One of these females at Svalbard had 2 cubs of the year, and both these had enlarged clitoris. It nearly looked like a penis.
It may well be this is something you need to look into further, because it could be a serious indicator of major problems in the reproductive breeding system. The scientists need to confirm that pollutants are causing these disturbing symptoms. The ramifications extend far beyond the Arctic.
This is the canary in the coal mine.
Absolutely.
They're a top predator, so they're going to concentrate anything that's out there. All those pollutants are being concentrated in the predator because it's eating everything else that's eating things lower in the food chain that are eating all those pollutants.
So polar bears are not just an indicator of the health of the Arctic ecosystem, they're a kind of indicator of the health of the whole planet.
Exactly. And it's been used in political work all over the world now. So this is not just a matter of what the Inuits eat or what we do of research. This is in fact being used by presidents and governments around the world.
It's incredible, isn't it, when you think everybody sees this as such a pristine environment.
And it is beautiful up here.
And it is stunning, but actually underneath the surface, it's not as pristine as it looks. Over at the old school, the scientists are trying to get to grips with the scale of the problem. Blood and tissue samples collected from last night will be sent to their labs around the world. I'm keen to find out more about the toxic chemicals.
Looking just at this table, this computer is filled with, what do you call them?
Flame retardants. Probably by weight, about 30% flame retardant.
Really?
I'm surprised to discover most plastics include chemical flame retardants. Almost all electronic devices contain them.
And we replenish our cell phones and computers every 2 or 3 years, and then where do those discarded products go? They get sent to various countries, or they're broken apart, and those components of the flame retardants or the metals get into the environment.
The more I learn about these pollutants, the more I realise what's at stake in the Arctic and beyond. The polar bear has adapted to living on the ice, but can it adapt to survive this man-made assault on its environment?
I'm heading into the mountains above Scoresbysund in search of one of the great wonders of the polar bear life cycle. Without this, polar bears would not survive their first year of life.
The babies are born nearly naked, with no subcutaneous fat and tiny. They only survive because their mothers dig dens, like this one, deep beneath the snow.
Using her sharp claws, she builds an underground lair. In here, her tiny cubs will be born.
It is really much warmer in here. The den traps all the body heat. The cubs can snuggle up next to Mum in here, and she can lie without moving, feeding or defecating even for 4 months or more. In that period, she suffers from no osteoporosis or no muscle wastage. It is a true wonder of science. After a few months suckling in here on the mother's fat-rich breast milk, they are ready to emerge and face the cold for the first time.
This legendary BBC natural history footage of a mother and cubs emerging from their den is the culmination of up to 8 months without food. The mother has protected her cubs from the unforgiving Arctic winter by living off huge fat reserves. The cubs will rely on her fat-rich milk to grow big enough to survive the next winter. Incredibly, once she starts hunting, she can double her body weight in just 4 months. We want to investigate how the polar bear copes with such a high-fat diet by carrying out a dissection of the digestive system. But first we need a bear. We only have 3 days before we head home.
We've just had a call, literally 2 minutes ago, to say another polar bear is coming in by boat. Do you know any more about it?
Yeah, it's a young hunter, I think. And I think it was shot quite recently. And now he's going to come in with the boat. And now we need to find some solid ice near shore, so we can pull the bear in and make sure we have some solid ice to dissect it at.
Do you know how big is it? Is it a young one, old one?
It's a young one.
It's another young one.
Okay. And now I gotta get down and watch out for the ice edge. Okay.
It's all got a bit frantic here at Captab Inn because we've had 2 calls now. We had a first call saying a youngish polar bear was coming in by boat, and you've just heard about another one.
Yeah, there's another. Olaf shot one, so.
We've just heard from the hunter it's a male, definitely, and it does look definitely bigger than the ones we've seen before. Currently it's under the boat, it's been tied to the bow here, so it's been dragged in from the front. It's a really surreal sight, I have to say, seeing a dead polar bear being dragged along almost like a buoy on the side of the hull.
Come on, Rune!
Come, we need to get more ropes so we are more people to drag.
Winch.
Okay, there's a drum weight.
This one here, we know it's male. Any idea, you can see its teeth, how old it might be?
Yeah, I mean, there's no breakage on the canines. And then if you can look for scars around the face, could also be some kind of age estimate.
Right, okay.
Definitely below 10.
We'll have a look at that when we get it out. Obviously, another boat coming in now, but it hasn't got another one in there, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's another one in there. Having been waiting for the last week and wondering whether we would have any bears turn up from the hunters, it's surreal to have one in the water here, a big male, less than 10 years, and another one in here that's definitely smaller, but we really don't know much about it at all. The sight of this magnificent creature lashed to the side of a boat is truly unsettling. But now we're part of the scientific team we must move fast to help them collect fresh samples. I'm hoping we'll get a chance to look at the digestive system to find out how these bears can digest so much fat. What they've done now is they've put this rope onto, there's a cable drum winch on the gantry there. Oh, and they're going to pull it around with the other boat. Okay, that's quite clever. Coming. Compared to the female we saw yesterday, this male is colossal. Keep going, just a bit more, just a bit more. Can we go over?
Yeah, I have it.
Okay, 210.
There's a very clear rule about the way you handle a polar bear when it's dead, the collaboration between the hunter and the scientist. It's very much the hunter's job to cut the skin, because the skin is a really valuable part of this bear from the hunter's point of view, and they won't let anybody else do that. Look at the size of these front legs though. I mean, that's my hand against his hand. Absolutely huge. Of course, their front legs, hind legs as well, aren't just for walking on the ice and the snow. The front legs are also going to be used for killing and for swimming. Well, this animal is a fantastic swimmer. Fairly recently, a polar bear was known to have swum for 9 days, covered over 400 miles. This is a very accomplished animal in the water as well as on the ice and snow. This is like playing tug-of-war with the internal organs of a polar bear. I've got the trachea, the windpipe here, but pulling out the heart, the lungs, the diaphragm, the liver, the digestive system. We'll get the whole lot out over here on the snow so that they can then take a closer look at it.
Okay.
The weight is 2.3 kilograms. The media is freezing. I wasn't expecting that.
In front of us we've got all of the respiratory system. We've got the windpipe here, lungs, some of it's being cut out for samples, diaphragm, which is where Joy is, stomach is here.
Let's turn this around. This
and
is
then
the backside.
All the intestines. What we're going to do is lay it out, because what we want to focus on is the digestive system. We've got some samples we need to take for the scientists, but also we want to have a look inside to see what this animal's been eating. Okay, there's your knife.
Okay.
It's getting quite dark now already, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, it's going to be a race against the sun.
This has to be the maddest field laboratory in the world. Certainly the most northerly, I think.
Okay. Now what we're cutting is the mesentery, which is a connective tissue that holds all of the intestines to the back wall. So it's like a big waving curtain, and it keeps it all in place and all coiled up, but in order to stretch out the intestines, we have to cut that curtain. So that's what we're doing right now.
What it also does, and you can see it beautifully here, is look at these blood vessels when you hold it up to the light. Just hold that. You can see when they get nearer the intestine how they spread out, and when the food's digested inside the intestine, the nutrients are absorbed through the wall of the intestine into this blood, and it's those vessels that are taking all the nutrients so that the animal can actually use them. This intricate web of blood vessels absorbs nearly all the fat the polar bear eats. Hardly any ends up in its feces. Don't squeeze out the shit out of the end, because we need a sample of that. Ooh, it's making some very horrible gurgling noises. Oh, excuse you. Was that you or the polar bear?
I think it's all gas.
I've only got a little bag, Joy. You've got gallons there, haven't you?
It's all the gas.
Is it? Oh, okay. There we go, there you go. Isn't that nice?
There we go.
Technically, this would have been the polar bear's next poo. Now we're going to find out what this bear ate for its last meal. It's a huge stomach. Let's just have a look inside there. Let's open it up first. We are going to need to get a sample of that as well. Okay, that's a really not very pleasant smell at all. But let's just have a look in here. It's pretty difficult to see in here though, isn't it? Has anybody got a light that we can get a better look at this? Thanks. Oh, that's much better. That's where it was. What happened then?
Oh,
there we go.
nice.
Oh wow, now we
Now
can
you
see.
can
Oh,
really
look at all the hair. You can see all the hair. That is fur and still with skin. So that's from
a seal. You can really see that hair. And if you look at the back side of it, you can see the fat. Mostly blubber. This is the tail of the seal. So you can get an idea of the size of the seal by just looking at that.
Okay.
So not a huge seal, but a little bit bigger than a pup. Because the pups, remember, have a white color to them, so they can blend into this environment. This is a dark animal, so it's not a pup, it's a little bit older. The only hard parts that we found, no bones, but the only hard parts we found was this claw. One little seal claw right there. And a little piece of the trachea right there.
Which fits though with the feeding strategy of polar bears, because they're so hungry for fat and blubber that they can eat. A polar bear this size will eat 50 kilos of blubber in one sitting, but they'll often leave the carcass, the rest of the carcass of the seal pup, on the ice, so they won't eat the bones and the muscle necessarily, because what they want is fat. The big thing is, how do they then digest the fat that ends up in their stomach? Because for us that would be a massive, massive problem.
Well, it certainly does in people, because people who eat lots and lots of fat also have high levels of cholesterol, and sometimes they can even form cholesterol gallstones in their gallbladder. But the bear is able to digest the fat really well, because if we look under their liver, underneath it here is a big sac. This is the gallbladder, and it's absolutely huge.
It's colossal, isn't it? It is colossal.
And it's filled with fluid. All of this fluid is the bile. So this is what it's using to break down all of that fat. Why don't we cut this open and get this into some samples of the bile? Both like that. So now what we're going to do is see if we can pour some out from here. Ready? You can see the fluid going in. There it is. That's bile. That greenish orangey color.
And huge quantities of it in that gallbladder.
Yeah, well, it's such a big gallbladder. And this is acting kind of like soap.
Yeah, because if you get fat on your hands, very difficult to get it off with water. What you need is a soap. This dark orange fluid is the final piece of the jigsaw. It's the key to how polar bears conquered the Arctic. Fat is tough to digest because it congeals into large clumps that digestive enzymes can't penetrate. But bile is a natural detergent. It splits the clumps into small oil droplets, allowing the enzymes to break down more fat molecules. Bears produce a more concentrated form of bile than other animals, and that's why they can digest nearly all the fat they eat. You kind of have to just get your head around the fact that this stuff in the snow now here, this liquid is what allows a polar bear to be able to live in this environment where it needs to eat huge quantities of fat to be able to fuel its body and provide it with the heat it needs internally. Without this, it couldn't live here. In the land of the ice bear, it's always been survival of the fattest. But now this fatty diet is fueling an uncertain future. Looking back on this trip, I've come to realise that in this remote corner of the world, the scientists may be revealing something truly important. We in the industrialised world are unwittingly creating a toxic planet. As Joy said, the polar bear's the canary in the mine. Only by carrying out more science will we fully understand the insidious threat. Then we can sound the alarm. Question is, will the world listen? Do you not just sit here and think, you're in an old schoolhouse in the Arctic, how can you possibly make a difference to this? You know, if you're producing 1 billion phones every year, millions of computers using these chemicals.
Well, if we don't do what we're doing, we won't know. Right? What do? We just keep producing and inventing new substances and allowing them to leach into the environment.
If we know what the bad chemicals are, the ones that are affecting health, then we can try to, the engineers can try to make a new chemical that won't cause that effect in the future.
And this is actually the aim of the game, to go all the way from the chemicals we have that we suspect to have an effect, to identify the effect, to prove the causal relationship between chemical and impact on population, and then the politicians facing these evidences obviously have to do something about it. Otherwise, that's going to be a riot.
We're heading home at the end of an extraordinary expedition. It's been an unusual collaboration between scientists and a traditional hunting community. But what's discovered here in one of the remotest parts of Greenland will not only help polar bears and the local people, it could also be of global importance. There are few more prehistoric-looking creatures swimming in the ocean than the sea turtle. It has a head like a dinosaur, a beak like a parrot, and looks like a tortoise, with flippers. Many animals survive as predators, relying on sharp teeth and claws to catch their prey. But turtles and tortoises have a different approach. They've evolved nature's ultimate defense strategy. The armor-plated shell has kept them safe for over 200 million years. But today, that's beginning to change. They face the constant threat of being caught in fishing nets, in fishing hooks, or being run down by boats. In all, in fact, every year, tens of thousands of turtles perish unnecessarily. We'll be investigating what happened to one giant leatherback turtle that very tragically died a few days ago. And by revealing its anatomy, we'll find out why a kidney-like organ sits where its brain should be, how its throat can withstand deadly jellyfish, and how it got its extraordinary shell. Join us as we go deep inside the giant turtle. Florida, the Sunshine State. With hundreds of miles of golden sands, beachfront condos and every water sport on offer, this is a paradise for holidaymakers. But it's all bad news for the sea turtle. They're being squeezed out of their prime nesting spots. And even out at sea, they're not safe from danger. But if you thought Floridians don't care about what happens to the turtles, you'd be wrong. They go to extreme lengths to save them. Emergency response units are on call 24 hours a day. And dedicated turtle hospitals treat the sick and injured. But sadly, not all their patients make it back out to sea. When turtles die on this coast, many of them end up in the freezer of Jeanette Wyneken, an anatomist from the Florida Atlantic University.
The first leatherback I ever worked on, I transported in the back of my car. I'll never do that again. Ever.
As a child, Jeanette was fascinated by dinosaurs. When she learnt they were extinct, she quickly settled for the next best thing. She's invited us to help her dissect a giant turtle that was picked up a few days ago. God, it's hot when you get out, isn't it?
Yeah, sure is.
Really warm. So where is the freezer? Here.
Right back here.
The last big turtle that I had anything to do with. There was a terrapin about that size, so, and I thought that was big.
This is going to scale up a wee bit. So.
My God, that is absolutely colossal. It's a monster. Is that?
That's a
normal. That's normal.
That's normal. That is an adult male leatherback turtle.
You've got to have a look at this. It is absolutely monstrous. That's 1.5 meters, isn't it?
Oh, it's 2 meters total.
2 meters total. That is a huge animal. But we have to get it to the lab.
Yes, we got to get.
So we're going to get it on this trailer.
That's
How
right.
heavy is this?
It's probably around 350 kilograms to 400 kilograms.
That's the weight of a horse. So is it going to be a lift from the edge of the shell job?
Well, actually, it's on wheels.
Oh, is it?
We were clever enough, thanks to
That's a hell of an
guys.
evolutionary trick, isn't it?
Yes.
To develop with your own wheels for when you're dead to move you around.
Yeah, so why don't we get a couple of you guys tugging on these ropes?
Mind your fingers. Okay. Okay, let's go. 2-hour trip down the road. It's absolutely sweltering. The leatherback is the world's largest turtle. This one struggled ashore alive after being hit by a speedboat. The propeller sliced off his front flipper. Despite the rescue team's best efforts, he died the next day. We've taken the carcass to a post-mortem room purpose-built for dissecting marine mammals. You just get a real sense when we've unpacked the tarpaulin off just how massive this turtle is. It's colossal. Absolutely colossal. We'll have to leave this to thaw overnight before we can explore what lies under its shell. As darkness descends on Florida's beaches, the ocean begins to stir. I've come to witness one of nature's most magical events. This is Mark, say again, over. I'm joining Simon Watt and Joy Reidenberg to help a group of scientists search for females coming ashore to lay eggs.
Carefully don't step on anything dark.
Yeah, I'm terrified I'm going to hear a crunch sound or something.
An hour into the patrol, there's a sighting.
Hello, Mark. Yes, I have a loggerhead sea turtle here. She's at the beach.
Oh, that's brilliant news. Where are you?
UCF kilometer 8.3. How soon can you be here?
5 minutes over. Wow. Oh, she's huge. She is huge. Just look at this. I mean, I've watched lots and lots of animals around the world, some incredible sights, but this is right at the top of the list.
It's amazing to get this close to a wild animal.
Yeah.
It's almost like she doesn't care about us.
She doesn't seem to even register. I'm glad that these lights are kind of beyond her reach, you'd think.
How many other 300-pound vertebrates can you get up this close to? And if you do it right, you pose no threat or to her, and she is totally unaggressive.
So she's got quite a clutch down there already, I mean.
Yes, she'll lay as many as 3 or 4 at a time. So many that you can't actually count them with the naked eye. Marine turtles lay more eggs than any other kind of turtle, any other kind of reptile. And that's because they know that they're going to lose a lot. We think that only 1 in 10,000 makes it to maturity to come back here and breed in 25 years.
So the strategy is very simple. Just produce as many as you can on the hope that one maybe will make it through its entire life cycle to come back to this beach as a female and carry on the next generation.
That's exactly right.
It's an incredible statistic, and one which we hope to investigate further as we delve into the turtle's life story. In fact, the sea turtle's brief forays onto land are the legacy of its distant ancestors, as Richard Dawkins explains.
All modern sea turtles and land tortoises are descended from ancient land tortoises that lived in the early days of the dinosaurs. Some of them then went to the water, in which respect they resemble whales and manatees, dugongs, sea lions, and so on. Unlike whales, sea turtles still retain, as it were, one foothold on the land. They have to come back to the land to lay their eggs, and so that's a betrayal of their ancient land heritage.
You would never think that you'd get this close to something so rare. It's really strange, you know, I try not to personify animals, but you kind of can't help but feel a bit emotional when you watch something like this laying eggs. She just sprayed us, didn't she? Yeah.
As the female covers her eggs, the scientists move in to measure and tag her so they can monitor the breeding population.
Okay.
So I'm going to go ahead and put these in here right now.
Terrific.
I'm going to go in. I'm going to
Whoa!
insert it.
No, good girl, stay
That's
still.
okay, it's all good.
So she's tagged?
Yep, now she's tagged.
So if you ever come back, we're going to know.
You got it.
Ah, there she goes.
Once her eggs are safely buried, she returns to the sea. Back at the post-mortem room, the giant leatherback has thawed out. Now we can begin the dissection to try to understand how this animal evolved its defensive anatomy. Marine vet Nancy Metty has been called in from one of Florida's top turtle hospitals. She suspects there may have been something wrong with this turtle before it was hit by the boat. Right, Nancy, the trauma here, if you peel that back, is pretty obvious.
It's obviously propeller strikes. We've got parallel sequential cuts through the shell and then into the soft tissue also, and actually traumatically amputating the left front flipper.
The fact that it got such trauma up the front end here says what to you?
Typically what a sea turtle will do is attempt to evade a boat. When they hear the sound and their hearing is very good in the water, they will begin to dive. I think this turtle was not evading this boat, you know, or not even making an attempt to evade. Potentially could have had some sort of a flotation problem, which was preventing it from being driven underwater by the force of the blade.
Nancy, would this guy have survived if it hadn't been so traumatic, the injury from the prop, and just lost the flipper? Would it have survived or not?
Leatherbacks, because of their enormous size, don't do well with any flipper amputation of the front, whereas other species, smaller species like the loggerheads or the greens, actually can do very well with an amputated front flipper.
This loggerhead turtle had both its front flippers sliced off after being caught in a fishing net in Japan. Its swimming was severely impaired until scientists came to the rescue. They created a pair of prosthetic flippers and attached them to the parts of the arm bones that could still move. The loggerhead took to the artificial adaptation immediately. But unfortunately, our leatherback was beyond surgery. You ready? 1, 2, 3. To go inside a turtle, you first need to turn it over onto its back. We're going to remove the internal anatomy layer by layer until we end up with an empty shell. We start by removing the lower protective layer. Just lift the other end, Joy. How heavy is that?
Can't even get a grip on her.
That's quite a weight, isn't it? Joy, who's more familiar with the insides of large whales than giant turtles, is surprised by her first impressions.
Think of a turtle shell as having bone all the way around. There's some bone right over here, but what's really amazing is this part is just fat. So a turtle shell made out of fat is very unusual. In fact, it looks a lot like a marine mammal because it seems to have a blubber layer.
In most sea turtles, the lower shell is made up of 9 bones, which have fused together to form a solid plate. But in the leatherback, these bones are reduced to a ring around the edge. Filling in is this layer of fat, which not only covers the belly, but encircles the entire body. But what's it for?
Leatherbacks are really unusual in that they are able to maintain a warmer body temperature than the environment. It's generating heat through its muscle action, and that core of heat is basically being trapped to a certain extent by this blubber layer.
So by having a big blubber layer, it's like wearing its own winter jacket. Even though we think of it as a cold-blooded reptile, it's actually not cold inside.
No.
It's maintaining heat inside.
That is essential if you're going up to the waters off of Portugal or Africa. Some of those waters are quite cold, but they're very rich. It's a good place to feed. And if you're a reptile that's got to feed there, you've got to maintain enough body temperature to function.
Protected by their thermal shield of fat, leatherbacks have been able to conquer the oceans. Leaving Florida's sunny beaches behind, they swim right across the Atlantic to our British shores, where they come to feed on jellyfish, which flourish in our cool seas. In fact, the largest leatherback ever known was found in these waters. This giant, caught on a fishing line off the coast of Wales in 1988, was thought to be 100 years old and weighed almost a ton. Being big is another way these turtles deal with the cold.
Reptiles are traditionally described as cold-blooded, but that's rather misleading. They're not so good at regulating their temperature as mammals and birds are. Lizards do it by moving into the sun to get warm, moving out of the sun to get cool. Now, a large animal, and this probably includes large reptiles like dinosaurs and indeed leatherback turtles, large animals can retain heat because the surface area of the body is relatively small compared to the volume of the body. And leatherback turtles really could be called almost warm-blooded.
But leatherbacks are by no means the largest turtles to have ever existed. That record belongs to this extinct relative, Archelon, who was 3 times bigger and roamed the seas 70 million years ago.
However big they get, all turtles start off tiny. After seeing the female lay her eggs the other night, I've come to Florida's Gulf Coast to find out about the next stage. Getting out to sea alive.
Hey, Eve.
Hey, how are you, Simon?
Not bad. Do you hand there?
Oh, absolutely. Here.
I've joined Eve Haverfield, a conservationist who dedicates her life to saving sea turtles. Every morning, she digs up nests that have hatched and counts how many baby turtles made it out. First, she shows me some of the dangers they face whilst they're still in the egg.
Those little reddish things are fire ants, and they hurt and they can decimate an entire nest of hatchlings.
And that's that hole. Is that a crab?
Yes.
So this nest has not had it easy.
It has not had it easy. We may not either if this crab is still in here. Could be carnage in here.
Are these crabs going to go for us?
They could. If you go ahead and stick your finger in there, Simon. They could. You could end up with a crab on your finger. It doesn't really hurt. It's just more surprising.
Yeah. I'd rather not be surprised though.
I know.
Whoa. Can't go and do it to us. Are you okay?
I'm fine. I'm sorry.
Don't apologise. That gave me a fright as well, actually, just seeing that thing.
It just, as I said, the element of surprise.
Yeah.
Even before they hatch, the attrition rate is high.
Actually, I've got quite a few here. Oh no, that's bad news as well. These are unhatched, and this one, yeah, that looks just there.
That's been attacked by fire ants. Some hatchlings got out, but I'm not surprised that we're going to be seeing some abnormal eggs. Oh, shoot. We had a storm here at the beginning of August. These little guys apparently had already hatched out of the egg, but not out of the nest, and obviously they drowned. They cannot tolerate, an extended time period underwater. This is so sad. This is not good. But this is nature. I can accept this. I don't like it, but I can accept this more easily than I can something that is done by humans. This is nature. This is part of, this happened throughout the eons.
Getting out of the nest alive is just the start. A hazardous race to the sea lies ahead. Natural selection ensures only the hatchlings with the best adapted genes survive running this gauntlet. One by one, they're picked off. And just when they think they've reached safety, the ocean's many predators attack. It's thought that only a quarter of the hatchlings will see past their first day. Where they go next is still a mystery. Young turtles are rarely seen. Scientists call this part of their life cycle the lost years, a time when they find food to grow big enough to fend for themselves.
This is the most weird-looking mouth I have ever seen.
It is kind of a showstopper.
The head is where we'll begin our investigation into how these animals are able to grow so big on a jellyfish diet. Joy wants to look at its feeding anatomy.
So we've taken the head of this turtle off, and I want to take you on the tour of the feeding apparatus because it's actually quite interesting. So the first thing you notice right away is that there's no teeth on this animal, not like you'd see in a mammal, but there are these pointy extensions that are sticking out of the front and also on the top and the bottom. These are acting like teeth. They can certainly slice, and you can see how it's like a big parrot beak as it goes back and forth like this. In fact, if I were to put my finger here, I think I'd lose it because that's pretty sharp. What's really interesting is that as this animal is biting and taking a slice out of the jellyfish, it needs to squeeze the water out of its mouth because it doesn't want to drink all of that seawater. So it's going to actually push the floor of the mouth up and squeeze the water out. And then when you go inside, there's more pointiness. All of this is actually quite bizarre. All of these pointy things here are going to help push the jellyfish down, keep them from coming back up. It's a one-way trip. And not only does it start right here at the mouth, but it goes all the way down the esophagus and all the way down to the stomach.
Jellyfish have been roaming the seas for over 500 million years. They're found in every ocean, from the shallows to the deep, and can gather in blooms 100,000 strong. These tentacled beasts are amongst the most venomous creatures on Earth. So with all the seafood to choose from, it's odd that turtles developed a taste for them. Why turtles are immune to the sting remains a mystery. But what's remarkable is how leatherbacks can fuel their giant bodies on this diet. There's not much to a jellyfish. It contains 95% water, so it's a bit like eating nothing but cucumbers. Can I have a little feel inside here? Because I want to feel what it's like to be a jellyfish.
Yeah, be careful if you try to come back out. It's very sharp and pointy.
Ooh, that is really
It's a one-way path, Mark. You might not be able to get your hand out easily.
That is weird.
Do I have to cut you out?
That is very, very strange.
These are very, very sharp.
We're going to follow the length of the deeply strange digestive system to find out how the leatherback manages on such a low-energy diet.
So if we follow that underneath the windpipe or trachea, we see just the esophagus right here. And we're going to follow that underneath the heart. We're going to pull that to the side. So as it runs under the liver, you can see my hand emerging again here. There's a continuation of the esophagus right here. So it continues around this corner like this, comes back up here where the propeller had cut through the esophagus, so you still see those pointy things in the esophagus here, loops around again here, goes again under this piece of liver, and eventually ends up in the stomach, comes back around on this side,
It turns out the leatherback has an extraordinarily convoluted digestive tract. In other animals, the food pipe leads directly from the mouth to the stomach. But in the leatherback, it takes a circuitous course around the stomach, making it 6 times longer than other sea turtles. It is already looking phenomenally long. Joy, it's funny, isn't it? It doesn't matter how many times you do this, it never ceases to amaze me how many miles of digestive system there are inside of an animal. We've got the whole of the digestive system now out on the table, and look at this. This is the inside of the esophagus, or the food pipe going from the mouth down to the stomach. And I tell you, if I showed a photograph of that to 20 of my mates who are vets and said, what is that? They would never in a million years say it was the inside of an esophagus. It is the weirdest thing I have ever seen inside an animal.
It's totally sea turtle.
And they go from really quite small here up near the mouth, and as you get kind of 2 feet in here, they are absolutely colossal. I mean, look at that. It's like a finger, very pointy, and then down at the base of it, there's loads more. And it's incredibly thick, the wall.
Yes, and keep in mind, many of them are feeding in cold areas, and so you actually see the muscular wall and then this insulating fat. So if these animals can insulate and not lose body heat as the food comes in, especially when they're bringing in cold water, they're saving energy.
It's an insulated food pipe.
It's an insulated food pipe.
It's so cool. This long, spiky food pipe is the key to how this turtle can cope with its diet of jellyfish. For this giant, its feeding philosophy is quantity, not quality. To prevent its stomach filling with seawater, the food pipe acts as a temporary storage vat. When it fills, muscles squeeze the water out, whilst the finger-like papillae keep the jellies in, before they're then passed into the stomach. This unique adaptation allows the leatherback to eat its body weight in jellyfish in just 1 day. There's very little in this turtle's stomach, but something else catches Nancy's eye. So Nancy, what have you got down here?
Well, we're still examining the mucosal surface here of the stomach, and there are these black lesions here which can be typical for some sort of worm eggs. These creamy white ones are more classic for tapeworm infested larvae, so we'll be biopsying those as well.
Anything in here, Nancy, that you're seeing at the moment that gives you seen possible parasites, that's any indication about this animal being unwell enough to be underweight?
Not necessarily. You know, parasites are typical for wild animals, so we don't necessarily, unless it's an overwhelming parasitemia, we don't necessarily consider it a cause of death. It could be part of why they were ill, but it rarely is the cause.
From parasites to predators, there's not a lot that can kill an adult turtle. Apparently, not even old age. In the sea, they can live to 100. And on land, giant tortoises can live over 2 centuries, making them the longest living of all large animals. It's even possible that some still alive today may have seen Charles Darwin when he visited the Galapagos Islands in 1835. The secret to their long life is not just a protective shell, but remarkably strong organs, which don't break down as they age. Slow and steady really can win the race. It seemed like nothing could touch them, until man came along. For centuries, pirates, whalers and explorers stocked up their ships with them. They weren't just easy to hunt and tasty to eat. These reptiles can survive without food or water for up to a year, which made them the perfect livestock for the long voyages at sea. In the Galapagos Islands alone, 200,000 giant tortoises were killed in just 3 centuries of slaughter.
When it comes to survival, the odds are really stacked against the sea turtles. Their nests are invaded by ferocious fire ants and crabs that devour their eggs. Those unlucky enough to emerge to the surface are easy pickings for birds. And those that make it as far as the sea face the ferocious jaws of sharks and fish and even other turtles. But if you think you couldn't make a bad situation worse, some turtles face another hurdle, because that is the Gulf of Mexico. And out there, there's oil. In 2010, an explosion on the Deepwater Horizon oil rig unleashed a vast slick of crude oil, covering an area the size of Scotland, smothering marine life. President Obama called the tragedy the environmental equivalent of 9/11.
We will not rest until this well is shut, the environment is repaired, and the cleanup is complete.
Although the rig was 60 kilometers off the coast, so much oil was released that it took only 6 weeks for it to start washing up on the beaches. A turtle disaster loomed. Once they hatched, a whole generation of turtles would head straight into the deadly sludge. With no time to spare, a rescue operation was launched. The plan was for hundreds of volunteers to try to dig up all the eggs laid over the nesting season and transport them across the state from the devastated beaches of the Gulf of Mexico, 800 kilometers, to the oil-free Atlantic coast. Here, NASA's Kennedy Space Center joined the rescue efforts, offering its temperature-controlled facility where the eggs could complete their incubation until they hatched. 70,000 turtles now had a second chance in life. Fortunately for Eve, her hatchlings here in southwest Florida escaped the catastrophe.
In this area, the oil did not present itself here as an oil slick. It may be on the floor of the Gulf, but it's not here on the surface, and that's why we're able to let them go into the Gulf rather than relocating them.
Yeah, but that's incredible crisis biology, that idea of taking them from one coast and putting them on another just because there's nothing else you can do. The decision to move the eggs was made knowing it could upset one of nature's most mysterious migrations. As adults, turtles return to the coasts where they were born to lay their own eggs. So whether the rescued hatchlings will find their way back to the beaches where they were laid, or where they swam out to sea, remains to be seen. Should they return, they will do so for the most important part of their life cycle: mating.
One of the most amazing things about this is we basically have this animal that lives in a box. And when they mate, you have to get 2 boxes to fit together. So when a female accepts the male, he climbs on her back. But then you've got all this shell in the way. And so they actually have a very large internal penis that becomes externalized. And it's a pretty impressive structure.
It's certainly larger than I thought it would be for a turtle, but it's not nearly as big as it is in a whale. Because whales don't have this whole box problem. The whole problem they have is that they just have to reach each other, and they're so big-bodied.
Yes.
But with the turtles, I can certainly see that would be a problem. But doesn't this have to then bend to get around
Absolutely.
to the female? So how does it do that?
It's mobile.
So it's got muscles in it.
It's got muscles in it, exactly.
And prehensile penis. Okay, well now they're getting more like whales.
This groove is the groove for delivery of sperm.
Oh, so it's not internal into a tube. It's actually just a trough.
It's a trough.
So the sperm could spill out of this trough?
Well, it's internalized into the female. So
Okay.
When engorged, it does become much more tube-like. You know, at this point, there really isn't the congestion of blood that you'll see when they're mating.
The penis of this pet tortoise can be seen to reach half the length of its shell, and it's tipped with a bulbous end which helps lock into the female. Although sometimes males struggle to find the right mate. Joining two boxes together is quite a challenge on land. When turtles mate underwater, it's a far more graceful affair.
So how long does the actual coupling take? Have we watched this? Hours. So they're actually, they're intertwined for hours in the water.
In the water.
They're swimming in concert while they're mating. It's very
Well,
romantic.
I don't know if they're swimming in concert, but it's her job to get them to the surface to breathe.
They'd have to be. I mean, have you ever tried to paddle a canoe with somebody that's not paddling with you? It doesn't work out very well.
As elegant as it looks, having sex underwater has its risks. Jealous rival males will exploit a mating pair's need to come to the surface to breathe, and they'll force them apart. Interestingly, a female welcomes the competition. She'll mate with several males.
About 10 days to 2 weeks after mating, the females come ashore and lay their eggs. They'll lay a clutch and then another clutch a few weeks later and another clutch a few weeks later.
Oh, wow. I thought it was just one.
No, it's a whole series of clutches.
Once the eggs are laid, they're abandoned and left to their own fate. Strangely, as the female heads back to sea, tears can often be seen running down her cheeks. Legend has it that these are tears of sadness. The mystery of why turtles cry can be solved by looking inside the head.
That's the height of neurosurgery in sea turtles right there. That's it.
So inside the head of the leatherback, you would expect to see primarily brain. But what you find is the brain was just in this little channel right in the middle, and the biggest things in the brain are the salt glands, which are effectively acting like kidneys. Different animals handle salt in different ways. The sea turtle, they have no choice but drinking salt water, taking salt water in. They have to get rid of the salt. Sometimes you'll hear about turtles coming up and crying while they're nesting. What you're really seeing is the products of these giant salt glands. The material that comes out of those glands is a viscous, salty tear. It's the excess salts. And in the water, of course, you don't see them because they're being washed away. But on land, the tears will accumulate, and it makes the turtle look like it's crying.
It's hard to believe that this head could ever have evolved to house kidney-like organs. But perhaps the strangest evolutionary puzzle is how the turtle got its shell. Before we try to piece that together, we're going to see how the turtle adapted to life underwater. There's very little left inside the shell, apart from 2 lungs, which to me look incredibly small for what is a kind of, expert diver.
They look small to me too.
Yeah?
Let's see what happens when we put some air in them. Oh, wow.
Well, that's incredible.
That looks much more like what I was expecting. See how quickly it just recoils and drives the air out. One of the characteristics of sea turtle lungs is they're highly elastic, and that's one of the ways they can bring air in quickly and get rid of it quickly. Because when these animals come to the surface, they exhale.
They're breathing like we would sneeze all at once.
Yes.
These bellow-like lungs enable leatherbacks to hold their breath for up to 30 minutes and dive to over 1,000 meters. But we've noticed there's something wrong with this leatherback's lungs. Okay, so we got quite a big leak out here.
Yeah, that lung's a lot smaller.
Yeah. It looks like the boat propeller penetrated the shell and sliced through this lung. Nancy wants to take a closer look for the post-mortem.
Well, this is the left lung that's been removed from the body. This wound right here was actually created by the propeller, and as the lung was inflated, you could see air escaping from the lung here. That was actually happening during life as well. Each time the sea turtle would inhale, air would be released into the body cavity. The lung was failing to inflate properly. Suffocation could be a cause of death. Blood loss could be a cause of death. You know, the amount of trauma here is tremendous. And it was just a matter of this turtle being in the wrong place at the wrong time.
On the beach, Simon and Eve are still hoping to save some lives. They're looking for any hatchlings trapped inside their nests.
And there it is.
Batch of shells. That's a sign that at least some of them have made it out. Hopefully many more.
Got one. Got one. Oh, baby, honey. Welcome. Welcome. Hello, hello. Oh, did you just see what he did? Had his little flippers on the back? That's his camouflage. When they do this, they're resting and swimming out in the Gulf. They'll put their little flippers on the back of their shell and they look like leaves so birds don't scoop them up as food. And underneath, they're relatively light so that as fish look up, they don't see this light air, so they're kind of camouflaged against the surface of the water. So they have many ways to hide.
This guy's a bit of a straggler, but lucky for him, we found him. We can take him out to the oceans to join his brothers and sisters.
Got another one. Oh, little guy.
The second hatchling looks a lot scrawnier than the first one we found. It's not uncommon for some to come out this way.
You know, it is going to be a survival of the fittest out there. If one is consumed by predators out there, but the robust one gets away while the other one is being consumed, then, you know, that's how it is. Our goal, of course, is to make sure that as many hatchlings as possible get into the Gulf.
Before we leave, Eve's keen to show me another miniaturized reptile that shares this beach.
This is a gopher tortoise. And unfortunately for the gopher tortoise, people sometimes mistake this as a sea turtle and they'll put the little guy in the water. Look at the difference. Claws
and flippers.
And flippers. Sea turtles have very strong flippers so that they can swim very fast, very deep.
Yeah.
Gopher tortoises, on the other hand, don't like water. They live on the land, and when people mistake them for sea turtles and put them in the Gulf, they can drown because they're not swimmers, they're crawlers.
There's an important evolutionary conundrum about turtles and tortoises. Did the turtle walk onto land to become the tortoise? Or did the tortoise swim into the sea to become the turtle?
It's a very surprising fact that modern land tortoises are not descended directly from the ancient land tortoises. Instead, modern land tortoises are descended from sea turtles. What happened was that the ancient land tortoises went to the sea, like whales and like manatees, and gave rise to the turtles. And then some of the sea turtles came out of the sea and gave rise to modern land tortoises. Now we know this because if you look at the DNA of modern turtles and modern land tortoises, the modern land tortoises come from within a nested subgroup of sea turtles. They're more closely related to some sea turtles than those sea turtles are to other sea turtles.
That leaves just one last mystery to solve. Jeanette, the leatherback soup bowl is now empty. Are we now close to being able to tell the story of how this amazing shell evolved?
Oh yes, you can see it pretty clearly now. Here's the vertebral column.
So that's the backbone.
That's the backbone. And they're individual vertebrae. It's just like you and I do, except they don't bend much. And there are the ribs. This whole shell is a modified rib cage.
Very cool.
So it's like almost an armor growing around it to produce a shell on the outside that protects everything on the inside, whereas we've got the rib cage protecting the delicate organs, but from a skeleton point of view, our shoulder blades and everything are on the outside of that. So We're just kind of the opposite.
We're the opposite.
Turtles and tortoises are not the only vertebrates to have developed armor plating, but there's a real puzzle as to how they managed to do it. Because unlike, say, armadillos, turtles and tortoises have developed the shell from the ribs, and since it completely encloses them, there's a puzzle as to how they manage to get the armor plating outside the arms and legs.
The answer lies in the peculiar way the bones develop. In most animals, including humans, the ribs grow by bending and tucking inside the shoulder blade. But in turtles, the shoulder blades are pushed further inside the body, allowing the ribs to grow around them. Meanwhile, the belly bones develop below. So that's how the arms and legs end up inside the shell. In hard-shelled turtles, the ribs expand and fuse to form a solid bone box. But in the leatherback, the ribs remain unconnected and are covered in a soft, leathery skin.
It's not hard-shelled, but it's a firm shell, and it's a flexible shell.
So there's enough movement. It's like you've got the ribs, but with gaps in it, enough to allow some movement, so that it can compress when it dives without cracking.
Exactly, and you can see, I can move this a little bit, and nothing's going crack, pop.
This armoured shield is one of evolution's greatest riddles. But like every great riddle, there's one final twist.
Given that we think sea turtles evolved from land tortoises that had shells, it's rather puzzling that there's one marine fossil called Odontocheilus, lived about 220 million years ago, that seems to have half a shell. It's got a shell on the lower part of the body, but not on the back of the body. Maybe it was guarding against predators that swooped from beneath or something of that sort. Nevertheless, it is a puzzle. Where does it fit in the evolution of turtles? Did it perhaps evolve from an ancestor that had two shells and lose the top half of the shell? Or what happened? We don't know.
This is an extraordinary evolutionary story, isn't it? And a brilliant adaptation to where these guys live. But the sad fact is you can have 230 million years of evolution, but if your anatomy comes into contact with a spinning propeller, you don't stand a chance.
Absolutely. Yeah, the carapace is a great design for protecting the turtle, but up against a speedboat, it really doesn't offer that much protection, and we need to do what we can to protect these animals.
In our final foray before leaving Florida, Joy and I join Simon to release the stragglers rescued earlier. Further up the coast, the hatchlings saved from the oil disaster are also being released. For these disorientated youngsters, which beach they'll try to return to as adults remains to be seen. But for those that make it back, they'll be the lucky winners of one of nature's toughest lotteries.
Swallowed by the sea.